Hello everyone, my name's Miss Heaney, I'm the Head of English here at Bullerswood, and I'm just going to talk you through an introduction to A-level literature here, and the topic of this presentation is introducing genre. So I'm sorry that I can't introduce myself in person and meet you too, but hopefully this will give you a flavour of the course and some ideas for how to use your summer well. So I'm going to begin by answering some key questions I imagine you have. The first one is, what will you study? How is it assessed? And which skills will you need? So what will you study? Well, it's quite a clearly structured course. Component 1 is drama. So you will study a Shakespeare play and also another play. And the assessment for this component is an examination, which is 2 hours and 15 minutes long. It's an open book exam, so you're permitted to have a clean copy of the texts in with you in the exam, and your task is to write 2 essays, 1 on each play. Component 2 is prose. So you will study 2 novels from a teacher-chosen theme, including at least 1 pre-1900 text. The themes on the EdXL course are childhood, colonisation and its aftermath, crime and detection, science and society, the supernatural, and women and society. And this is examined in 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's also open book. You have a choice of 2 questions on the studied prose text and you write 1 essay. So you're actually comparing those novels in light of the chosen theme. And then we have component 3, which is poetry. You'll study a selection of modern poetry from a collection called Poems of the Decade, an anthology of the forward books of poetry 2002-2011, and you'll also study another collection of poetry. And this is assessed in another examination of 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's also open book, and you write 2 essays, 1 on each of those collections of poetry. So what will you study? I can't tell you precisely the text that you will study, but I'm going to show you some examples of courses that have been taught in the last couple of years. So here's an example course that's built around the prose theme of childhood and other selected texts. So of course these students studied Poems of the Decade. Everybody studies poetry from that collection. The other poetry collection they studied was English Romantic Verse. For Shakespeare they studied Othello. The other drama text they studied was Tennessee Williams' A Streetcar Named Desire. And then the 2 prose texts, which are connected by the theme of childhood, were Hard Times by Charles Dickens and The Colour Purple. So a really interesting, varied, diverse course. So another example course is here, and the prose theme for this one is colonisation. So again, Poems of the Decade, all Year 12 students study that one. Again, this class studied English Romantic Verse. A different Shakespeare play, they studied Hamlet. And another play, John Webster's The Duchess of Malfi. And then the 2 novels that they studied that had the connected theme of colonisation were Sam Selvin's The Lonely Londoners and Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. So another question often students have is, how is it assessed? Well, in terms of the percentages, it's 80% exam, 20% coursework. So coursework will be a new experience for many of you, perhaps most of you. The coursework assignment for A-Level English Literature is a really exciting opportunity. You have the opportunity to choose to write an essay on text of your choice, focused on an area of your choice, and you have complete independence in how you execute that task. You do, of course, have our support. We help you to make good choices and we help you to plan carefully. But in terms of the coursework, you have a lot of freedom, and I know for students who are moving on from GCSE, the freedom to choose as students of literature is a really exciting opportunity. So the coursework is worth 20%, so that is an essay which you will write and will be marked in advance of the beginning of exam season. And then in the summer of year 13, which is when the exams are done, you'll complete the other 80%, and those are the components that I've explained earlier in this presentation. So, which skills will you need? Well, of course, you will develop skills through A-Level, but these are the skills that you will be using very often in your study of A-Level literature. So these are the essential skills for A-Level English Literature. You need to have confident, independent reading and analysis skills, and you should be looking forward to reading much more independently at your own pace. You need to have exam essay writing skills, so to be confident in writing under time conditions and with the understanding that it's 80% of the course, so it is a big part of being successful. And also to have good group discussion skills. We often discuss things in groups in English. These might be small groups of 2 or 3. Sometimes they might be slightly larger groups of perhaps 10 students. So these are all really essential skills. Something which my A-level students often comment on, often advise me to draw prospective Year 12 students' attention to, they're considering taking A-Level literature, is that you really need to be ready for the big step up in terms of expectations of students to read challenging texts independently. A-Level is very different to GCSE. Most of the reading of these texts happens in your own time, so either in independent study time in school or at home. And our lessons tend to be either focused on a very specific passage, or they tend to be very, very broad. So the expectation will be that you have read the text, you have read certain chapters or certain scenes for homework, and so the lesson is focused on discussing your responses to what you've read and taking your understanding and bringing it to the next level. So it's really very different to GCSE, and this is a fabulous experience for students who love to read, and for students who have perhaps always felt as though they would like to read ahead, they're ready to go on to the next step, and perhaps sometimes found in the GCSE lessons that you'd have been very happy to be doing broader, more extended activities and not spending so much time on reading because perhaps you had chosen yourself to read ahead or finish reading the book yourself. So A-Level is a wonderful experience if it is already your habit to read ahead, to read for pleasure, to have a general interest in reading. It's wonderful, but it's important to understand that if you don't like to read, so you don't read independently, don't enjoy it, it's not a course that you're going to enjoy, and it may be a course that you find difficult. So just really encourage you to take that advice from my students on board. There's something else interesting about reading literature which you might not know. So did you know that reading literary fiction is proven to develop skills in students that benefit them beyond the subject of literature? Reading literature is actually extremely good for cognitive function and also well-being. And so what I've got here is a link to a short clip in which the broader benefits of reading literary fiction are explained. And I'd just like you to click on that and to watch that. So in terms of preparation for Year 12, we do have quite a specific task that we'd like you to undertake. I know that you might already have started on this. It's available via the school website as well. But I'm just going to talk you through it. So what we'd like you to do is to study the following poems, to ensure that you analyse them carefully, considering form, structure, language and their themes. Research the poets so that you know more about the context of their work. So that means when they were written, when they were set, the poet's biography, details like that. And then you need to consider and identify links that can be drawn between these poems, so similarities between them. And this preparation work has a very specific purpose. You will have a baseline assessment in September, and it will be based on these poems and an unseen poem. So partly what we'll be looking at is how well have you gone about the process of studying independently, but then also an element of this will be how well will you respond to a new poem in terms of your analysis. So these are the preparation poems. We have 2 poems by Caroline Duffy, The Light Gatherer and We Remember Your Childhood Well. 2 poems by Seamus Heaney, Death of a Naturalist and Digging. And 2 poems by Simon Armitage, Kid and I Am Very Bothered. So these are poets who are very well established, and you should be able to find the poems very easily online, and also you should be able to research the background of these poets and their poetry very easily by accessing the wide range of excellent background and information there is available about these poets and their poetry. So that's the key Year 12 preparation task that you should be doing for English literature. Of course, you can also do other tasks to prepare, and the best thing you can do in preparation for English literature is to read. So we have a suggested list here. You may study these texts for A-level, but even if they didn't appear on the course that you're studying, all of these texts would be excellent to read over the summer, or indeed any literature that is taught at A-level, is sophisticated, is well established, is considered a classic. But if you want a specific starting place, then have a look at these texts. You could look them up and you could read these. They will all prepare you very well for the A-level. So that takes me to the end of our presentation. As I say, I'm sorry not to have been able to actually meet you in person, but we are really looking forward to starting with our new A-level cohort and the exciting opportunity to share many great works of literature and to hear your ideas and your responses to them. So I wish you a very happy summer with plenty of sunshine and good health, and we will meet again soon. Thank you.